Calls of the Castle, Part 6, written by rickanddisgusting. I squinted and blinked away the redness from the backs of my eyelids to reveal they matched the color of the sky. It had gotten dark, but the moon that peered over the horizon was gigantic and bright red, illuminating the entire sky. I could hear the calming lapping of waves on the shore next to me, and I felt cool sand run between my fingertips as I used my hands to push myself up. Instantly, my head started throbbing and I became aware of my body. Every single one of my bones felt bruised, and it was pretty apparent that the ocean had thrown me around like a rag doll earlier. How I had washed up on the shore and survived was a mystery to me, but then again, it probably wasn't the weirdest thing that had happened today. I slowly looked around and saw that I was alone. I wondered if the others had washed up somewhere around here as well. Ryan. Suddenly I remembered how the boat had been flung into her body and exploded on impact, her blood staining the ocean and coloring it a deep red. How she had looked at me the second before it happened. I swear I could see myself through her eyes, and I didn't like what I saw. That moment seemed to last forever, for an eternity, and yet it had all happened so fast. It didn't feel real yet. Ryan and I were friends for so long that she had become part of my very identity. The best part of me. I truly felt like I had nothing left and nothing left to lose. But that wasn't true. There was still a possibility that two other people were around here somewhere, and they deserved to live. I couldn't give up before I had done everything in my power to make sure that they were safe. That's what I believed. But why couldn't I jump up and search for them? I felt frozen in place. The sensation of my mind screaming at my body, while I could do nothing but stare at the same spot until my vision became blurry. This feeling was becoming quite familiar. I got my body to stand up after a while. My legs were shaking so bad that they almost collapsed from under me right away. I felt dizzy and had trouble breathing, but I remained upright. I took in my surroundings more thoroughly, and I could see that I was on a different island from the one that we had departed from. Once again, there was nothing to see beyond the water, which meant I had to go deeper into the island. Though it felt like the further that we got, the further we got away from home. In front of me was a huge cave, and around it was nothing but steep, pitch-black cliffs that were going up for miles. The only way out is through, I figured. I started recognizing the pattern that this place was throwing at us, urging us to go where we needed to go. And someone always died at the end. I wondered if it would be me next. I walked up to the entrance of the cave and was welcomed by a waft of hot air enveloping me. I put my hand on the rock wall to help guide myself through the darkness, but immediately pulled it back. The rock was scorching hot and had singed my hand to a degree that it was already swollen and blistering. It appeared red, but then again, everything did. I was going to have to navigate myself through the cave without being able to see or feel anything. I looked around the island for anything I could find to help me. There were no trees, which meant no twigs to scrape along the wall. The sand was just that, perfectly smooth sand with nothing to aid me lying around. I was just going to have to head in and hope for the best. I took off my jacket and threw it to the side. Then I took a deep breath and I stepped inside. The first bit was easy since the moon illuminated my path. Soon, however, it was pitch black all around me. I tried to use my other senses to find something that would indicate I was going the right way. I stood as still as I possibly could and focused. The inside of the cave smelt musty and earthy, but not unpleasant. Beads of sweat that had gathered on my forehead were dripping from my face and falling onto the red-hot stone, evaporating instantaneously. My feet felt like they had caught fire. I was lucky the soles of my shoes hadn't melted off yet. I carefully stretched my arms out in front of me. I figured that it would be better to risk burning my hands than to walk face first into a burning hot wall. I sighed with relief to find that I hadn't touched anything. Slowly, I lifted up my shaking legs and began taking small steps with my arms stretched out like that. The cave filled with the echoing of my steps. 10 steps I counted. 20 steps. 30. My fingers grazed a wall and I quickly yanked them back. Now I would have to guess. Left or right? Right first, I guessed. I turned and started walking slowly, my legs trembling even more now. After a few steps, however, I had found that I had guessed wrong. Both palms of my hands got planted on a wall, and tears started running down my face involuntarily as I yanked them back. I turned around and tried the other side. I was on the right track again. This process continued for what I guess was about a mile. It took me ages to make it to the end of the tunnel at my pace, but eventually I got there. Red light poured into the exit of the cave, and finally I could see again. I stepped out and guarded my eyes from the intense light with my bloodied hands. I hoped to be welcomed with a cool breeze, but instead the temperature seemed to have risen even more. A waft of hot metal mixed with sulfur filled my nostrils, like someone baking rotten eggs on a giant stove. It took a few seconds for my eyes to adjust to my new surroundings. I took a little longer to fully process it. The cave ended in a narrow path connected and held by stone pillars. It seemed just wide enough for me to pass. I stepped onto the path and carefully peered over the edge. The pillars seemed to go down for what must have been about 1,000 feet. At the bottom lay the source of the heat. The pillars ended in a sea of bubbling lava. Every so often, a bubble would pop, spewing piping hot magma into the air. I gulped and looked ahead again. The path went on for a few miles before it split into 2 directions, with each of them ending in a different cave. I took a deep breath and started walking. I kept looking down as I carefully placed my footing. I heard the rocks crunch under my feet, and with every other step, a small crack would form in the stone path. Every so often, a piece of rock would break off and tumble down into the magma. It took all of the focus that I had to control my breathing and keep my balance. All I had to do was not think about the fact that one wrong step would result in me tumbling down into piping hot lava and facing imminent death. Easy, right? In through my nose, left foot. Out through my mouth, right foot. I continued this way until I made it to the splitting point. As if walking on a tightrope path like this wasn't hard enough already, now I would have to choose which way to go. I figured right hadn't exactly worked in my favor up until now, so left it was. I hadn't taken my first step when I heard a huge crack coming from below. I stopped dead in my tracks and stood as still as possible. I looked down slowly. A tear had formed under my feet. Carefully, I lifted my foot up and I planted it down again softly. The tear expanded in front of me. I took a deep breath in and out. Then I made a run for it. Discarding the cautiousness, I ran as hard as I could. I was closely followed by the crack which kept expanding. Rocks broke off behind me, and I heard whole pillars collapse and plummet into the lava below. I was almost at the entrance of the cave ahead. It was just a few more steps. I sprinted towards it, and just as I almost reached it, the pillar I was on disconnected. It broke off from the path and went tumbling down. I jumped, just in time to avoid going down with it. I landed on my feet at the entrance of the cave. I fell forward onto my hands and knees and turned around to look at the path of destruction that I had left behind. The entire path that connected this cave to the others had broken down and sunk into the lava. There was no way back now. I stood up and dusted off my knees before heading in. I wanted to put as much distance between myself and the lava as fast as possible. When I entered the cave, I was surprised to see, well, anything in general. This cave was lined dramatically with lit torches decorating the walls. Finally, things were in my favor for once, I thought. I made it through the tunnel with ease, but my heart sank as soon as I saw where it led. More paths, more lava. But there was also a figure standing at the entrance whose silhouette I was just able to make out against the stark red light. They were standing to the side as they looked down over the edge of the cliff. "Hello!" I called out as I walked closer. "Scoot? Kane?" Scooter looked startled as he turned around quickly. I ran up to him. "Gabe?" He sounded puzzled. "Scooter, you have no idea how happy I am to see you," I exclaimed as I threw my arms around his neck. "I didn't expect to see you here." His arms remained hanging limply to his side. "Me neither." He sounded almost disappointed. I didn't think much of it. I was too preoccupied by the relief that washed over me when I found him that I didn't pick up on anything else. "We have to find Kane. If you and I are both here, that means he has to be around here somewhere." I went on as I pushed past him and started down the path. He caught up to me and I heard him answer from behind me. "I'm not coming, Gabe." The relief had swapped for dread in an instant. What do you mean you're not coming?" I asked in disbelief. "I can't do this anymore," Scooter explained. "Of course you can," I jumped in. "We've made it this far. For all we know, we just have to cross one more path and then—" "You don't understand." He cut me off. "I don't want to do this anymore." "What are you talking about, man?" I laughed nervously. "I'm done, Gabe. Even if we make it home, there's nothing back there for me," Scooter said slowly. "Scoot, I don't understand. You don't want to go home? And then what? Study something I don't care about to spend the rest of my life working a job that I hate to be able to buy crap I don't need? It's all pointless, man. And this proves it even more. You're supposed to end up here for a reason. But what have I done to deserve this? Tell me, what did Susie do wrong to deserve this? What did Ryan do wrong? What do you mean?" I asked. Scooter seemed to know something that I didn't. Something obvious that I've missed all this time. "Don't you see?" Scooter's eyes were wide as his voice intensified. "We had it wrong all this time. Hell isn't a place where you're supposed to go when you die. Nobody's ever supposed to come here. It's a place where you die." His whole body was shaking. "And if you're not dead already, you wish that you were." He took another step back. I heard a piece of rock break off and splash down into the sizzling lava. "I'm sorry, Gabe," he said as he closed his eyes. "Scooter, wait!" I screamed as I took a step forward and reached out. But I was too late. Scooter leaned back and let himself fall. I heard a muffled splatter and looked over just in time to see his body being consumed by the red-hot mass. The skin had started melting off his bones, and I swear that I could smell his scorching flesh as I heard it sizzle. He kept screaming out from the pain until the last of his face was devoured by the bubbling lava.